Hey, welcome back. I'm Angeline, and after last week's epic Hainan chicken rice video, I told myself I would take it easy for the next one, make something super simple like spaghetti with garlic with spaghetti out of a box. However, I find myself today attempting to make hand-pulled noodles, something I've never made before. So let's give it a go. I love noodles so much that I want to make a whole series dedicated to their deliciousness. Consider this part 1 in the journey. The noodles we're tackling today are called Biang Biang Mian or Yo Po Mian. Mian means noodles and Yo Po means oil pour because hot oil is doused over the herbs and spices to release their aromatic goodness. The dish hails from Shaanxi, a province in China, which, by the way, is also home to the terracotta warriors. But what's with the name Biang Biang Noodles? It's pretty cute, I gotta say. Well, the words Biang Biang were chosen because that's kind of what the noodles sound like when you're making them. This dish is in my top 10 best noodles of all time, alongside heavyweights like curry laksa and tonkotsu ramen, because they're thick and chewy with a garlicky punch that's surprisingly well balanced with the rest of the sauce mix. Noodles are pretty simple things. Flour, salt and water is all you need, but it does take a bit of practice to make something you'd actually want to eat. I ended up road testing a few different ways to make them, and I have a bit of a dough graveyard to show for it. But I finally settled on this method we're making today. We're making enough today for 2 very hungry adults. You need 400 grams of flour and 6 grams of salt, whisked together to disperse the salt properly. Then you combine this with 237 ml of water and mix it with your hands until all the flour is hydrated and comes together into a shaggy dough ball. Even if it doesn't seem like you have enough water, I promise you do, so just persist till it all comes together away from the bowl. Take it onto your table and knead it for a single minute. Then we can cover it and let it rest for 30 minutes. After the half-hour resting period, your dough ball should be soft and silky, and it's now time to knead it again. We're just going to knead for 2 minutes, and any technique will be fine. But I did read online that kneading outwards helps with the noodles to stretch and get long, so that's what I'm going with. The method of short kneading combined with long resting times promotes dough elasticity and extensibility. So what does that mean exactly? Well, elasticity gives us noodles with structure and chew, and extensibility means we'll be able to stretch the dough out into long noodles without it tearing on us. And both of these qualities are really important for a good Biang Biang noodle. One of the reasons why I love making Biang Biang noodles is because they come out nice and thick with a charming irregular edge from being not only hand-pulled but torn as well, which we'll get to in a moment. The trick is to follow the resting times. There's just no rushing dough, unfortunately. Tackling hand-pulled noodles is kind of tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun. Now that we're done with our 2 minutes of kneading, we're going to shape our little round friend into a log and chop it up into smaller portions. It's a little bit easier the smaller the portion of dough is to handle if you're just starting out. I'm doing 6 today because I like to live a little dangerously. Now it's time to cover our dough babies up and let them rest for 2 hours. And after that, the dough is ready to transform into noodles. So now we're getting everything together to flavor the noodles. We need a very big handful of coriander and spring onions chopped up, 1 garlic clove minced, and a teaspoon of chili flakes. These components are what we're going to pile on top, and this is what gets hit with the hot oil. The actual sauce that we need is really simple: half a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon each of soy and a black vinegar called Chinkiang vinegar. Chinkiang vinegar is Really unique. It's got this earthy, malty flavor and it's a little bit sweet and it's made from fermented glutinous rice. Okay, let's get some noodle action happening. I think the key message I want to leave you with is to be gentle and patient with your dough and don't give up even if your first batch is a flop, just like mine was. You take out one of your portions of dough that's been resting for the 2 hours and you roll it out till it's pretty thin. At that point, you pick it up and very gently start to pull it apart until you get to about shoulder width. At that point, you go in for the slap against the table. You'll slap the noodle about half a dozen times, and each time this happens, the noodle gets a little bit longer. When you're happy with the length of it, you tear it from the middle and you open it up and you get these really nice hand-torn noodles. Now, this extra slap at the end is totally unnecessary, but I couldn't help myself. So I want to tell you all how I fell in love with noodles. Some people love dark meat over white. Some like chocolate more than vanilla. And for me, I thought I liked rice more than noodles. But a fateful day in 2015 changed all that for me. We were visiting my husband's grandmother and we weren't married at the time. But I jumped at the chance to see Shanghai and Beijing, the cities he grew up in. His grandma was 93 and losing her mobility, and she wanted to see him one last time before it got too late. She showed me his baby pictures and I could see one where she was much younger, holding up and smiling at a plump moon-faced baby on a bright sunny day in the garden. She told us that no matter where we were, to never forget that China was our motherland. 中国是你的祖国. I think that was her way of saying, don't forget about me and come back and visit again one day. I'm really glad we were able to see her because she passed away a few months later. I felt like she held on long enough just to see her grandson again. She lived in Beijing and one day we spotted a tiny restaurant in the back streets and we tried to read the menu. We gave up and just asked the shopkeeper for something good. 什么好吃的? He went off into the kitchen and moments later a plate of what I think must have been Biang Biang Mian arrived. One bite and I was hooked. How could noodles taste this good? We both raved about the dish using our basic Chinese. 很好吃,我们最喜欢. And I remember him laughing as two Asian Australians lost their minds over a simple bowl of noodles. But you know how it goes, the simple things are often the best. These days, Melbourne has lots of hand-pulled noodle shops to choose from, but the memory of that first bite is a hard act to follow. So I'm going to try my best to recreate that magic today. Okay, here we are, the moment of truth. I've chosen the pot with the widest mouth because getting your noodles in here is going to get really hectic. And you have to work quite fast because the noodles are really quite floppy now, very extensible. And truthfully, you should actually be slapping your noodles, tearing them, and popping them straight into the boiling water. That's ideal, but I'm not that organized. They don't take long to cook, a couple of minutes. It's hard to put an exact time on it because noodles are quite variable. The way I pull mine could be very different to you. But I let them go for 30 seconds after I brought them back to boil. And then I took them out into a separate little pot because it's a lot easier to mix up the sauce in a pot than a bowl. Now it's time to dress our noodles with the sauce and the herbs and spices. I like to put the garlic as a clump together at the very top because when you hit the whole thing in hot oil, you absolutely want to make sure that the garlic bears the brunt of it. And as much as we love garlic, you don't really want raw garlic. Although I admit, despite being hit with the hot oil, it's still punchy as hell, and I think that's a good thing. So it's really easy. It's just 2 tablespoons of oil for 1 serve of the noodles. I use peanut oil and then watch it, and as soon as it starts to smoke, pour it over your noodles and mix it all up together. The sauce is really good stuff, and if you can't be bothered making noodles from scratch, which I totally understand, I would recommend just doing this whole sauce and herbs bit, boiling up some noodles from a packet and having that. It is really nice. Okay, time to eat. I'm excited to dig in, not gonna lie. But before I do, I want to shout out to the 24 subscribers to my channel. Thank you. Colorisms was the last one to subscribe, so welcome, babe. Every subscription helps my channel out a lot, so I appreciate the love. Thank you as well for everyone that's taken the time to give me some feedback. I gotta say, I was surprised by the nice things that you had to say, but it really motivates me to keep trying to make good content. For the rest of you watching, show me some love, hit subscribe and smash that like button. Now back to the program. These Biang Biang noodles are legit. It was so good with that chewy texture that makes you just want to eat more and more. And the spicy garlicky sauce goes so perfectly with this really dense noodle. This is quite a humble dish, but it packs a flavor punch, that's for sure. Originally, I'd intended for these sections to be more of a taste test session, but I think it's turning more into I'm just gonna eat until I'm done. So let's do that. I've started a list of episode ideas, but I'm always open to more, so please drop me a line on anything you'd like to see me make or ingredients you'd like me to use. I really don't mind a challenge either. I'm also thinking about doing some food reviews soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for joining me today, and ciao for now.